Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Sunday Live. Before I say hello to anyone, because it happened today, I just want to say congratulations to the English national team. Yes, I do follow the Euro 2020, and I might say a word or two much later on the stream when we got over the important parts. But even if it's early, I already saw some of you there. So hi Katrina, hi Kathy, hi Conservator. Thanks for helping out today again. Really appreciate that. And it's good seeing you, especially when I think later on you're going to have to watch some TV as well. At least I will. Although we have a little bit of a, rivalry between Germany and the Netherlands there. But I keep my fingers crossed for you guys later tonight anyway. But we were right after the G7 summit, and so I'm going to talk about this a little bit today. Obviously, it was the first in-person meeting of a lot of leaders of the industrial nations, especially with Joe Biden, Angela Merkel, Emmanuel Macron, Boris Johnson. That was supposed to be a very interesting meeting there, and it was. Yeah, a little bit of a rivalry, Conservator. Exactly. Hi, Chatty Red. Thanks for joining us too. I don't know how many people will be watching football today and will show up for the live stream. But as I said, as long as anybody's there, I'm going to make those live streams. It's not about numbers. It's, in that circle I can say it's about quality. No, but let's go back to the G7. So we knew the talks between Joe Biden and Boris Johnson are going to be interesting because of everything Biden said in advance to that, what Biden's administration did in advance to that, and then it came to the G7. I have a longer video tomorrow morning about all the meetings, and so I will not go over the whole thing in the live stream now, but sorry, I just filmed those longer video and some others. So I will go into some certain points of it. You all heard about this in other videos of mine. Max will have talked about this. Phil will have talked about this. The meetings were quite interesting, and the meeting between Johnson, Ursula von der Leyen, and Charles Michel was just about Brexit and nothing else. And there was one threat Johnson made I do want to talk about today, because that could need a video of its own. Because now he, during the G7, was threatening that he will use Article 16 of the Johnson Protocol, as I used to call it, against the EU if they are not flexible, as Frosty always calls it, and just ignore what they signed, because that's what they mean with being flexible. Just ignore what we've signed. We do whatever we want, and then we are happy. But that's not going to happen. But now he's threatening to use Article 16, and he said the EU did that already, so we can do that too. First of all, the EU didn't really trigger Article 16. They were thinking about this. Triggering Article 16 has followed some certain rules, so it is triggered, and that was not what happened. But still, the Brexiteers claim the EU triggered Article 16. Johnson claims they triggered Article 16, and that's just one of their headlines again that they try to use. But let's forget it. Let's just concentrate on the part, can Boris Johnson in this case trigger Article 16? Well, he can do a lot, but if it's legal is the other question. First of all, hi Christian. Just seen you come. I'm really, even if someone said fuck football, I'm really sorry what happened to the Danish player yesterday. I've only seen parts of it, but I'm really sorry, and I'm glad that I've heard that he's recovering again. But let's get back to Article 16. I got all the necessary parts for Article 16 here, and not only what some of the Brexiteers that comment under my videos do. This is Article 16, and I highlighted something, I will talk about this as well. But to understand Article 16, you also need this. This is Annex 7 of the protocol, because there it says also how the whole thing is working. So just looking at one article doesn't work, and it's the same with all the contracts and agreements we are talking about at the moment. They only look at one line, and we had this in other cases as well. They were just talking about that line, and that's it. But they never understood what all of this really means, and never understood how it works. And so I used the chance as well to show you that not the article itself is only important, but there are other parts of those agreements that you have to have a look at as well if you want to know how this works. Hi, Verti. And let's stick to Article 16. Boris Johnson is saying in this case of Northern Ireland and the delivery of goods to Northern Ireland, he can trigger Article 16. Article 16 says if the application of this protocol leads to serious economic, societal or environmental difficulties that are liable to persist or to diversion of trade, the EU or the UK may unilaterally take appropriate safeguard measures. That first sounds very simple if you're not used to international law. I'm not a lawyer. Yeah, I studied law for quite some years, but I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not an international lawyer especially. And so I want to explain a little bit. If you read those words, you might think, oh yeah, he can do it. But what does it say? If the application of this protocol leads to serious difficulties, let's keep all the different ones. The economic ones, it's not difficulties that were not expected. And you have to count that in. What is happening now with the goods checks and the health certificates and everything that comes with that is not unexpected. It was what they agreed on. The checks are not an upcoming problem. The checks are what was agreed on. So you can't say this is an economic problem that's liable to persist. That is the agreement to do that. And the second thing is the societal difficulties he might rely on to keep the paramilitary unionist groups in check in Northern Ireland is not a thing for this protocol. It's a normal competence of the police forces of the United Kingdom to keep criminals in the United Kingdom's at check. And so that is not part of this protocol. And the diversion of trade was that we have there, he might rely on because of the words in this article. It was caused by Brexit, not by this protocol. That the deliveries from Ireland to continental Europe are not going through the UK anymore. It has nothing to do with the Northern Ireland Protocol. It has to do with Brexit. Because Brexit and its consequences made it, in many cases, better to directly ship it to the continent instead of going the detour via the UK. And so that's nothing they can count on as well. But the most important part of it is priority shall be given to such measures as will least disturb the functioning of this protocol. And the measures that will least disturb the functioning of the protocol would be if the government would finally implement all the steps they agreed to do. Because then the movement of goods between the UK, the Great Britain and Northern Ireland would go more smoothly than it is now, because all this uncertainty certainly doesn't help anyone. And a measure that can be done most easily is one that Maroš Šefčovič, the Vice President of the EU Commission that always has to deal with David Frost and the Joint Committee, suggested this week once again. Put a sticker on the damned food only for Northern Ireland, or for Northern Ireland only. And it's done. Then it's over. Yeah. Of course, must be stickers you can't remove, but then the whole thing is easy. That is the easiest solution for that, and not revoking the protocol. Article 16 cannot just be used to endlessly put all the measures on hold of the protocol. That's what Boris Johnson has in mind. So it's a threat that the EU is probably taken seriously that he might do that. But they also know that it would be another one of his illegal measures, because I don't understand them for quite some time, except the fact that the leading members of the UK government have a completely different agenda on their mind and not the well-being of their people. But seriously, I am so glad I'm not part of the EU administration that has to deal with the UK. And there's another part of the Article 16 that was talked about, at least in German media, during the G7 summit when Boris Johnson came up with a threat, and that is, if he does that, even if he does that legally, what he doesn't, but let's just hypothetically say he would do that legally, it would create a big imbalance, and that would allow the EU to take measures against him triggering Article 16 again. So in the case of the vaccines, if the EU would have really triggered Article 16, Boris Johnson could have done the same. If they really, what they didn't do, really stopped vaccines from the EU being delivered to the UK, Boris Johnson could have done the same vice versa. The only problem is he has nothing in his hand to deal with that in that case, because they never delivered anything to the EU. So that would have been a fun thing, that he would then have to admit that they anyway never did that. Verti licked the lick button. Christian, if UK does not implement checks, I think the other nations will go to the WTO and evoke the most favored nation rule. Yeah, but I had a video today about the former Irish Taoiseach, who was ambassador of the EU to Washington, that talked exactly about this. I quoted him there. And the problem is, if it goes via the ECJ, for example, if Boris Johnson always does something illegal, it takes time. And if it goes via the WTO, it even takes much longer, even if now we have a proper US president and the WTO will be working again properly. But that would take so long that the WTO is not really an option to go against this. Only could happen what we all don't want. But the point of this is, when people think it's that easy to trigger Article 16, that's when this annex comes through. And this annex, by the way, proves that why it's a lie that the EU already triggered Article 16 properly. Because in Annex 7, the name of that annex is Procedures referred to in Article 16, number 3. That's all about how Article 16 is triggered and how that continues. Because, first of all, without any delay, if you trigger Article 16, you immediately have to notify the other side. If it's possible, they can do it through the Joint Committee. If it's not possible, they have to do it anyway, and they have to provide all relevant information. That's where it ends with the Johnson government already, if they want to trigger Article 16. At the moment, I'm not really sure they are capable of putting together all relevant information. And they immediately have to enter into consultations in the Joint Committee, so they have to meet immediately in the Joint Committee when they said the EU triggered Article 16. Have you heard about the meeting of the Joint Committee? Well, but Johnson would have to do this. Wouldn't bring that much, because on Wednesday they met in the Joint Committee and they have to work that out. And they have to wait 1 month to put the safeguard measures in place. So even if the EU would have had triggered Article 16, they would have had to wait 1 month before they could have really done that. So stopping vaccine delivery to the UK would have run for another month and give them time to talk. And the same thing it's about here. And it goes on in this. When it happens, when the month is over and you apply the measures, you immediately have to go back to the Joint Committee and bring all the relevant information about the triggering or about the placing the safeguard measures. And they have to meet every 3 months about them. So it's a very complicated thing. I won't go through the whole thing. I just want to show you this is far more complicated than the simplified version we always get, especially from the fun newspapers. It was fun again to have a look at the headlines of all international papers, including Times Magazine, and then have a look at the Express. So, two different worlds. I even looked into newspapers from Jakarta and everywhere else on this planet, but they all sound the same, except the newspapers like the Express. And so on the G7 summit, you really could see once again that some media are living in another world. And those media I could only find in the UK, I must say. Leute. It's sometimes really something that you don't understand. So Boris Johnson might be threatening to Article 16. But if he does, the EU will immediately take action against it. If he does, he will internationally be even in a worse place than he already is. In my long video about the G7 summit tomorrow, I talk about the Brexit part in that video, but I also talk about what an occasion that could have been for the UK without Brexit. What great advertising that could have been for the UK without Brexit. And they completely blew that chance. The whole thing was messed up by Brexit and by Boris Johnson not fulfilling international treaties. The whole thing could have looked differently. If you look in the newspapers, most of them are only talking about the talks that were related to Brexit. There were some other topics I have for you here as well, which I quickly want to go through to tell you what happened there as well. But the media published. And that's a big shame because of all the important topics that have to be dealt with. So almost nobody talked about them. All you found everywhere was Brexit. And that's really a shame. And just to come back to that one, because I said it in a video before, but the Brexiteers on my channel in part are still doing that. They claim again that Biden chose the UK to be the first visit abroad because of their special relationship. First of all, special relationship. Yeah. I don't know how many people, first of all, they told that over the years. And on the other hand, the most special relationship at the moment we can see is between the US and Ireland because of that president. And still, the UK was the place to go for President Biden as the first place, because there, by incident, was this year's G7 summit. If it was in France, because it's rotating through the G7, if it was in France this year, it would have gone first to France, because the G7 summit is so important that in the pandemic you go there in person instead of just doing stuff by video conference. And the other thing is, it was not to visit Boris Johnson as the most important ally. It was to go to the G7 summit. And that happened in Cornwall in England. So President Biden had to go to Cornwall in England, just as he's going now to Brussels in Belgium, because there are the NATO headquarters and there's the NATO summit. And he didn't choose, no offense Belgium, the UK and Belgium as the first places to visit because they are so important for the US. that's where the places are where the summits are. That's why he went there. And but they still try their propaganda, but it's really getting boring. Can't they find something new, something not that obvious? I'm so sick that so many people are still buying that. I always thought the majority of the people is quite intelligent, but so many people falling for stuff like that really makes me think. I'm sorry to say that. So, well, let's have a little look before I get into more of the G7, who's now all there. We have some more viewers than the beginning. First, I haven't looked at the participants, and it's not showing that much. Hi, Bodger. Hi, is it Patasi Paul or Pataki Paul? Hi, Stanley. Hi, Cloudhopper. And but I've seen more in the chat. Hi, Jerry. Hi, Stanley. Hi, Yusi. I don't know why it doesn't show all the people in the list that are online. Hi, Duncan. But let's stick to the G7. Boris Johnson definitely is playing the card now that President Biden didn't say anything serious after the meeting about the Northern Ireland Protocol part of their talks. But that's not the important one. Of course, Biden was playing nice. It's a G7 summit and it's not a Brexit summit. And he definitely said something during the meeting. That's why I said in Germany we say I would have liked to be a mouse in the room. I know it's a fly on the wall in English, but as you know, I always try to bring some German proverbs to let you know how we do this. And he definitely will have said something, especially remembering what his administration did in the days before the summit. And what was that? Your coffee mug holds the best tasting coffee. Do you know which coffee I'm drinking? Probably not. It's a German company that's selling this. But the coffee tastes good because of the mug, you probably mean. But it's for the coffee, it's my normal one. The unicorn one is the one with the other stuff I need. And I don't mean alcohol, it's just for my voice. Hi, John. Greetings to Bavaria. There must be some fun weather today. I'm glad it's a bit cooler here. Unfortunately, the latest on Wednesday will be very hot here as well. I just read in Ireland it's hot as well at the moment. The last days, for the first time in ages, you've seen me without glasses on my videos because it was so hot. The glasses made me sweat even more and they were fogging. It was so warm in here because we had more than 30 degrees outside. We have, I have very big lamps here, so the lighting fits quite properly. So very hot in England as well. Oh boy. And that heats up the place even more because those are not that expensive LED ones. Because of that size, they would be really expensive. My channel is not that big yet. So I still have to watch out what I'm buying. And it was hell. I was sweating like hell, and then the air conditioning thingy is the problem. I can't put any on while I'm filming because it has to be that strong, and you would hear the whole thing the whole time in the videos, and so it gets really warm in here. But it was nice that there was nice weather in Cornwall, I guess, as well. And I was, in fact, happy to see something else, because I was happy to see Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth joining them for dinner in an official capacity again. And as I read in German newspapers, she was joking with the heads of government and heads of state there, and that is really nice to know after her husband hasn't died that long ago, and it's good to know that she's in such a mood at least now. Well, she's herself 95 now, and it's the longest reigning head of state we have on this planet. But when they met for dinner, you probably all saw that Prince Charles was. Okay, I just quickly have to do some syncing because the audio seems to be out of touch now. I hope it's better now. Thank you for telling me, Cloudhopper. Sometimes happen. That's when you work with a program like this. But I was with the Queen, not literally. And when she was there, she said, when they were supposed to make that photo, are you supposed to be looking as if you're enjoying yourself? So she probably is not enjoying those official meetings that much. Although after such a long time, just being, well, she has staff, but still being quite isolated like everybody else, I think it's a little bit more fun than those meetings before the pandemic, because they rarely happened, and the one like this hasn't happened before. Okay, I hope the sound is working again. Sometimes I don't understand OBS. But as I said, I want to talk a little bit more about the G7, but I thought before we go away from the Brexit thing, I want to use you for a test. You know that I'm not that familiar with all the programs now I'm using. I'm always learning myself. And to do this, I just want to, let's say, remind us all not why Brexit happened, but why the UK in the first place has joined the EU. And so I can make another test and you might have some fun, even if most of you will probably know it, but perhaps there's one or two of you who don't know it yet, and maybe the others are happy to see it again. So let's give it a try. If it's working on my system here, what I'm trying to do, then if it does, I'll give you some fun stuff in between later on as well.
The writing's on the wall.
Well, in any event, we'll have to think of something to make the public think kindly towards administration because of the Europass.
Quite.
Europass?
Europass? European identity card. Well, Bernard, surely you've informed the Minister.
Minister, didn't you do your boxes last night?
I was redrafting the redraft of the draft.
Well, briefly, Minister, Brussels is about to decree that there should be a new European identity card to be carried by all citizens of the EEC. Now, the Foreign Office is quite ready to go along with it as a quid pro quo, for a deal over the Buttermount and the Wine Lake and the Milk Ocean. The Lamb War and the Cod Stick. And quite obviously, the Prime Minister wants you to introduce the legislation.
Me?
Yes, well, it's well known that you're pro-Europe, you see. And it would simplify our administration enormously in the long run, so it's a good idea.
Good idea.
Good idea.
Good idea.
Not a good idea?
Political suicide?
Trying to make British people carry compulsory identification papers. They'll say I'm introducing a police state again. Is this what we fought 2 world wars for, Humphrey?
Well, Minister, it's really little more than a sort of driving license.
It's the last nail in my coffin, that's what it is.
Well, you might get away with calling it Euro Club Express.
Why do we have to introduce it? Can't the Foreign Office do it?
Well, in fact, that was the Prime Minister's original suggestion, but the Foreign Secretary thought that this was a Home Office matter, and the Home Office took the view that it was essentially an administrative matter, and the Prime Minister agreed.
They're all playing pass the parcel.
Can you blame them when you can hear it ticking?
Well, I'm afraid that the identity card bill is planned to be the last action of this department.
Wonderful ammunition for the anti-Europeans.
Let's hope the Foreign Office realise what damage this will do to the European idea.
Well, I'm sure they do. That's why they support it.
Well, sure, the Foreign Office is pro-Europe, isn't it?
Yes and no. If you'll forgive the expression. The Foreign Office is pro-Europe because it is really anti-Europe. The civil service was united in its desire to make sure that the common market didn't work. That's why we went into it.
What are you talking about?
Minister, Britain has had the same foreign policy objective for at least the last 500 years, to create a disunited Europe. In that cause, we have fought with the Dutch against the Spanish, with the Germans against the French, with the French and Italians against the Germans, and with the French against the Germans and Italians. Divide and rule, you see. Why should we change now, when it's worked so well?
Ancient history, surely.
Yes, and current policy. We had to break the whole thing up, so we had to get inside. We tried to break it up from the outside, but that wouldn't work. Now that we're inside, we can make a complete pig's breakfast of the whole thing. Set the Germans against the French against the Italians against the Dutch. As the more arguments it can stir up, the more futile and impotent it becomes.
Appalling cynicism.
Yes. We call it diplomacy, Minister.
So, yeah, it was a little test, but there is some audio stuff going on I have to work on when I'm doing this, because it's only transmitting the audio that I get from my speakers. I don't know why it's not transmitting the original audio from the browser. So I have to work on that one. But it was a first test, so with my speakers you heard it, but it was a bit more quiet. Okay. Christian says, it has been a good day here in Kolding, Denmark. Yesterday we had the German president, Danish prime minister, and today the Queen to celebrate the border vote of 1920. Yeah, tomorrow on, I don't know if it's on my Europe or my global channel, I have a video about this, because we had the 100th anniversary of the border vote between Denmark and Germany from 1920. It was in the 1920s where we still saw a lot of wars before that and after that, and they didn't go to war over the border between Germany and Denmark. They had the people have a vote, and then like they voted, it was decided. So it was a very important anniversary. And Christian, yeah, our president has been there, and the Danish prime minister and the Danish queen Margarete have been taking part there, and the prime minister of Schleswig-Holstein as well. Was really important. It was the first trip for ages for our president as well, by the way. As I said, talked about Biden earlier. But let's come back to the quickly to the video. So I still have to work on this, how I can get the sound of those things over, because I didn't download it. I just let it run from the original from YouTube itself. And so I still have to find out how it works. OBS is not that easy. There was so much I had to find out, but I will. But at least with my mic and speakers involved, I can do some little fun stuff in between. But in this case, I wanted to make that test. And I wanted to remind us all, you heard it very well, why they joined the EU in the first place. And of course, I saw somebody writing the other reason. They were broke. They were the sick men of Europe when they joined the European Union, and it helped them big time. Like others, Ireland is nowadays much better off than in the time before they joined the European Union. And Germany would be much worse off if they hadn't joined the European Union. So, but I love Yes Minister, like a lot of other series from the UK. So I'm not anti-UK, although a lot of Brexiteers are always writing that. No, I'm against that government. I'm not anti-UK. I'm against that government, and I'm against hateful, xenophobic, homophobic people. And there are too many of those loud at the moment in the UK. So, but still, let's go back to the G7. They also, of course, were talking about climate change. And one important decision, which is not as big as it could have been, but still an important one, that is not being covered by the media that well because of all the Brexit shenanigans happening at the G7, is that the G7 decided to give $100 billion every year to poorer countries to finance climate change. It's supposed to go to developing countries, and they will have it in their meeting statement. And for the very first time, all countries, all of them, that didn't happen before either, pledged to be climate neutral until 2050. You can all say it's too late, it's not enough or whatever, but it's the first time, so it's still historic that they all, for the first time, pledged to do that. And we still have to work towards that goal. And we have some people here who are just ideological, and they always say we have to do this and we have to do that, but never think about the consequences. You have to find the balance by protecting the climate without destroying the economy, because then we won't have any of that, because if we destroy the economy, we can't go to protecting the climate. So Dimitya said, didn't Deutsche Welle talk about it, at least in the English version, trying to counter China? Well, of course, they do a lot at the moment to counter China, but I come to China at another point here, because China was a bigger topic somewhere else than on the climate change part. But of course, that was an important step with these pledges on the G7 summit. You must not forget, in November in Glasgow will be the UN climate conference. So also in the UK, this time in Scotland, because it's their turn, so to speak. And so that one leads to the other in that respective. About China, they talked about the new Silk Road and how to counteract against the growing influence of China. That was a far more important topic that was China related than the climate change, Dimitya, because I saw some nice graphics yesterday about the new Silk Roads China is putting up from on the land side. With they're really building highways towards Europe, and on the seaside. That will have big influence, and China will gain influence with that. And that's why they talked about that they need to work together to counter that economic power and that coming economic growth of China. And that's why I always was that much against Brexit, because the last reasonable thing you can do nowadays, especially facing China, is to go it alone. We need to work together, otherwise China will just overtake quite a lot. Scottish Bombolinian, greetings to Glasgow. There needs to be more cooperation, and the new Silk Road will be a big problem for all the other big industrialized nations on this planet. Whatever you do, Mark, don't play the Belt and Road rap. I must have missed that one, but I hope you don't mean the one that Dude sent me with all the interesting names if you go from south of England to northern Scotland, and what all interesting places you are passing because of the names. No, but the G7 now want to counter the Silk Road project with a worldwide infrastructure initiative, and they also will mention, or have mentioned in their communique at the end of the G7 meeting, the human rights violations by China. The problem is, in part, the UK is well, let's say, not working on the side of the human rights in all places at the moment. And there were even more topics almost nobody got because most of the press wasn't talking about this. The USA and Korea talked during the G7 summit about the Korean Peninsula, and especially about the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. And they want to get rid of all nukes there. And that's why they still want to talk to North Korea about their nuclear weapons program. But it's a bit like talking to David Frost to talk to Kim Jong-un. He has his agenda. He needs those nuclear weapons. It's the only thing he can threat anyone with. If they are not there, is a much bigger problem. And on the other hand, something the Johnson government also does is he needs them for the politics at home. A lot of the trouble Johnson is creating with the EU at the moment is for domestic politics. It's not for his politics with the EU or for dealing with the EU. It's just for domestic politics. He wants to stay in charge. And that seems to be at the moment the only way that he can do this. The only way that he can defend his seat, so to speak. And North Korea is well, he's doing exactly the same. He uses the nuclear weapons. And if you look some documentations about North Korea, for example, he's using the United States as the arch enemy. All the kids there in school learn that the USA is just waiting to invade North Korea to kill them all. And what I've seen there in the museums in documentations, in North Korea, they filmed it right there. It's not fake. They are teaching that the GIs played football with newborn babies in North Korea and raped all the women and whatever. So you always need an arch enemy for domestic reasons. And that's what a lot of Tory governments did with the EU. The EU always was the arch enemy, and it still is, because it was blamed for everything, and they still do it, even if they left the EU. And of course, and I won't keep that secret, because some always say I only say what I want to say. No, I don't. Angela Merkel, of course, met with Joe Biden as well at the G7 summit, and there was... of course, the topic of Nord Stream 2. The USA are not a friend of the pipeline. The USA obviously are saying that it has to do with the Ukraine, that with Nord Stream 2, the Russians won't send any gas through the Ukraine anymore to other countries where it's passing now, and the Ukraine gets paid for the passing of the gas there. But it's not the main reason. Everybody knows that the US is against Nord Stream 2, not for topics of human rights, not because of the Ukraine, and still the issues with the Ukraine, and we still have embargoes on Russia. And I think that the handling of the German government with Nord Stream 2 is not perfect. Definitely not. But that is not the case why the Americans are against Nord Stream 2. If we don't have Nord Stream 2, and if with the old pipelines the Russians don't deliver as much gas to Western Europe as it's needed, they have to buy the very expensive liquid gas shipped via ship from the USA. Of course, the USA want to sell their expensive liquid gas to Europe. And with Nord Stream 2, nobody will buy that stuff. And so there are always two sides of a medal. And but I have to say, and I repeat that, I don't agree with everything the German government did regarding Nord Stream 2, especially not dealing with Putin in general and his violations against human rights, his violations with the invasion of the Ukraine, and I call it that. or at least parts of it, the Crimea is Ukrainian territory and nothing else, and that fake vote there on the Crimea. One of my favorite authors is Tom Clancy. Unfortunately, he's dead now, but his series goes on by other authors, and he obviously has allowed that, or I don't know how that works, but they're still going on. But there was one very good thing in a book that was about a short war between the USA and Japan. It was a fictional war, but it was there. And there was about some Pacific islands. And the Japanese did exactly that in that book, what Putin later did in reality. He brought a lot of Russians there and then had a vote. And the Japanese in that book tried the same. They brought a lot of Japanese citizens there and then promised to have a vote about where this island belongs to. So it's not legal in any case, and nobody will accept that. Spiteful war, the Rhine Doctrine. Oh, another fan of Tom Clancy. But the Rhine Doctrine really goes very far, and I won't elaborate now, but we can talk about this at another place and time. Something else was there. Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga has once again said that he will go through with the Tokyo Olympics, although there was a lot of resistance from the Japanese people against it, because we're still in the pandemic, and the Japanese government still hopes that the G7 will, in their communique at the end of the summit, be of assistance and say they are pro the Olympic Games in Tokyo that they're going through. The problem really is the emergency situation in Japan is still that way, that it was prolonged until 20th of June. And the vaccination campaign is not going that well in Japan either. And so I'm not so sure that it's really a good thing to have the Olympics there with viewers. I don't know. Even some of our athletes are not very happy about this. And I really can understand that, but the dream of every athlete is to be at the Olympics, so I'm quite sure they're quite torn about that topic. It's a really tough one. Oh yeah, and I forgot one with Angela. Mid-July, Angela Merkel will go to Washington and meet Joe Biden in Washington, because Joe Biden, during the G7 summit, invited her. So she'll be there on July 15th for a working visit. Yeah, the official state visit with dinners and stuff doesn't make a lot of sense there in a pandemic. But so Angela Merkel is one of the first to be invited to Washington, if you go put a lot of emphasis on things like this. So after the return of Joe Biden to the White House, after all the summits, very soon after that, Angela Merkel will go to Washington on invitation of the US president. And I just saw Darian Dester, thank you for a super chat. Not talking much, man. I've got a really bad back, but looking cool, Mark. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much. Yeah, unfortunately, I had to change a little bit the hairstyling today, because when it grew a little bit now, I could see, especially because I see myself too much on video at the moment, that she didn't cut it completely the way I wanted it. I was, as I said when I talked about this on the other live stream, I told her about that trend and that I wanted it, but I don't blame her, but she didn't obviously completely know how to do this, and so I have to style it a little bit differently and tell her next time a little bit more detailed how to do that, because there was one mistake, and that's why it doesn't look good anymore. It really looks not so nice, but it's happens. But before I come to the new British Fox News, I quickly want to go for a few seconds to football, because there are some interesting aspects there. Don't worry, I won't take it too long. I said England won today against Croatia, 1-0. I think Sterling is his name. Christian Sonomo Caesar here. Yeah, it's called a Caesar cut, but she didn't properly cut it like the Caesar cut, and that's why I'm getting problems now when I brush it the way it's supposed to be. Yeah, I come to gullible blighty news in a moment. So no football. England won today, which against Croatia. No offense, Croatia. I still congratulate them on their win. There are 3 British teams in the Euro 2020, and it is the Euro 2020, even if we're in 2021. It is the Euro 2020 because it was supposed to happen last year, but because of the pandemic it didn't. And now they thought that they can do this. If it really was good, we will see. But now in the Euro 2020, there are 3 British teams. It's Wales. They played yesterday. They played 1 each against Switzerland. England played today and won 1-0 against Croatia. And Scotland will be playing tomorrow. And there's one interesting part why I brought it up here as well, because the groups, the teams are in, are quite interesting. Besides the fact that Germany is in a killer group with Portugal and France, and then Germany is playing France on Tuesday. So really gonna have a wild evening ahead of me on Tuesday because they're playing at 9 p.m. CET. It's going to be hard, and playing Portugal as well. And Hungary, we will see. But Germany is not in the top condition they should be for a tournament like this. But they are a tournament team, and sometimes they start very low and then they really get it going. So I keep my fingers crossed for our team. But the other fun part with the groups is that Scotland and England are in one group. And so in a few days, we will see Scotland play against England. And that's going to be an interesting one, at least for me. And by the way, Belgium played Russia yesterday. I saw that game was a really good one, 3-0. And sorry again for Denmark and what happened to the Danish player. And Christian, even more sorry. I like the Finnish guys as well, so the Finnish won against Denmark with 1-0. So, but there are some very interesting groups, but I quickly want to tell you who's there. Wales is in a group with Italy, Switzerland, and Turkey. Then there's a group with Belgium, Finland, Denmark, and Russia. A group with Austria, Netherlands, which I will watch tonight, North Macedonia, and Ukraine. And there I'm quite sure that the Netherlands and Austria will be quite good. Then there's another group with England, Czech Republic, Scotland, and Croatia. The next group is Poland, Slovakia, Spain, and Sweden. And the last one is Germany, France, Germany, Hungary, and Portugal. And so we have a lot of interesting games ahead. I know not everyone is interested in football, but I just want to show you one thing because of those always complaining about that one. Yeah, not all the stereotypes are the way you always want to have them, because yeah, I'm gay, but I do love football, and I do know what they do when they play football. And on the other hand, I did play football, not in an official team, but as a hobby, in a gay team, by the way, for quite some time. But I'm too old now, and too kaput, to say it that way. But I played until I was 42, 43. So it was fun. So have your stereotypes there. By the way, I haven't mentioned it yet in one of my videos. That is the Pride set from Lego. Everyone is awesome. I assembled that on my Wednesday live stream, my very first Wednesday live stream on my Queer Views channel. And now you see the result here. And so I promised we are in the Pride month, and it will definitely stay on that board for the Pride month. You're never too old to follow your passion, Mark. Yeah, but I I would need some of those walking helps if I ever go and to be a goalkeeper again, or I need a smaller, you know. You know what I mean. But Clutterbuck, I'm actually shocked that Mark is older than me. Wow, how old are you? I would have to ask then. Um, that's let's put it that way. It's the thing you say when people have a little bit more weight on their shoulders. They usually look younger. If I lose weight again, which I hope I do after the pandemic, I'm under the supervision of my doctor, are starting very slowly with stuff now because of the lung capacity thing I told you earlier, because of long COVID. Doesn't take some time to get there again, but that helps for looking younger. Mark doesn't look like he's gone far into his 40s. I've put him in his late 30s. Oh no, I'm in my late 40s this year. Thank you. But thank you very much. So, but another topic I had for you was just a short one. I'm going to make a video on that one too, but I just want to mention it because we talked about the Russian television recently and their problems Putin is complaining about in some European countries. Now we have the station GB News, and German newspapers are asking, is that the new Fox News for Great Britain? And so today it was supposed to get started. I don't receive UK television, so you might be able to tell me if it happened. They're supposed to be working right now, but what was interesting to read was that they obviously headhunted a lot of journalists. Well, in German they call that reporter and not journalist, who were working for BBC, Sky News or ITV, and they also want to have a radio program starting in July. And behind that there are investors from the USA like Discovery. They're not planning a 24-hour broadcast. And they say they're going to talk about topics that are really important for the UK and not Westminster politics. And that already tells me where they are going, to be honest. I am really looking forward to get some snippets of their program in the future to have a look at this, to really know what they are doing. But I obviously, if they are going some direction like some newspapers, we all know this is going to be really interesting. If they're really going into the direction of Fox News, we all know what's going to happen. And they are also doing talk shows and stuff like this. It will be interesting to see who they are inviting to their talk shows, and so on, and so on, and so on. So I don't want to go too deep in this. I'll have this announcement on one of my videos then in the next days as well, that they are now out. But it will be really interesting to see what is going to happen. I didn't want to take it that deep, but I know that there are a lot of people from other countries. I just wanted to know that this is happening. While RT is having problems, you all know what RT is. It's Russian television. It is a propaganda machine from Vladimir Putin, even if he denies that. And they are really having troubles getting bank accounts in European countries, in EU countries, where they want to start their channels. The banks didn't even deny to work with them. So that's a quite interesting piece there as well. Bia Campbell says this. Two new British channels just show us where UK is going. BBC and Sky are enough bad. They are biased and cheaters, and now we will get British Fox News. God help us. Well, I'm really curious to see myself what's going on with them. will be on set, free set 216 also on Sky. Well, I think I do have Sky International or something. I have a satellite dish here where I live and not cable. It's all via satellite what I'm watching, and so I should have a look if I have any new program there, if they publish it somehow else. Was there a little lag on this end? Okay, no, the stream is looking good here. It's my OBS is broadcasting high enough. I have a very good internet connection here. I don't know why sometimes something happened, but this time it doesn't, because I can see right now how much it's transmitting, and even YouTube is saying it's all good. Sometimes maybe the sound and video sync is not in sync because I have to reset OBS quickly, but every time you tell me, it will I will do it immediately. So always just tell me when that happens, and I'll do it. So I haven't seen any question there in the meantime, so otherwise I could have answered in the end as well. Next week I'm gonna give you the chance to answer questions again. Yeah, I don't do it every week, I told you, but in between I give you the chance again. I think tomorrow I will put up the post on my community tab for the next live stream, at least the picture. I will not have the link already in. Takes a little bit longer for me to prepare all this, but I put the picture in and tell you that you can ask the questions for next week. And I will add the link later during the week for the next live stream, but it's not that important for asking questions, but then you can ask questions again. Didn't want to do it this week because I knew the G7 summit will happen, and so I wanted to talk about that one today. And I hope that if you ever had German in school, if you don't understand it anymore, or think you don't understand it anymore, because I heard some very interesting things on my newest channel, visit me on the Queer Views channel. I'll have live streams there from time to time as well. I'm not very sure if I can do it this Wednesday again, because I told you during the weeks I can't always do this. But I got some comments for my live stream last week from people who haven't spoken German in 50 years and just had a bit in school, and they said they understood much more than they thought they would. And maybe the same goes for you. So visit me on my Queer Views channel if you like, and from time to time I'll have live streams there as well. As I said, I'm not sure about Wednesday. It might happen this Wednesday again, but I'm not absolutely sure. And what somebody wrote under my last live stream, my German is not that difficult to understand if you get a little bit of it, because I'm living in an area that doesn't really have a dialect. I'm not Bavarian. I'm not from Saxony. So the German from my area is, I don't want to call it clean. It's an easy understandable German because we don't have a dialect in it. So if you are interested, just try. Or try it in the beginning with some German jokes. I put now I'm on the flow. Every third day I put in a gay joke there, just as a short. I'm trying the YouTube shorts there as well. And hi Tom, I haven't seen that you are there. Hi there. Yeah, it's called Hochdeutsch in German. That's High German. It's should be easier to understand for somebody who's not native German speaker. So I hope to see some of you there. It's really nice. Already over 60 subscribers there. People regularly watching. It's really nice to see. I have different topics, and a lot of people from other countries. I'm really glad for the support I get there as well. That's a topic that's close to my heart. So I'm really happy about the support I get from some of you from this channel. So it's really nice to see that some of you were on my last live stream where I was talking about that thing. I was assembling that. I did the unboxing. And it was really nice to see you. It was quite a small group there. We were just, I saw it later on, it was 14 people. But it's a nice chat with a small group there. And there were some, don't speak German, just try to understand or understand a little bit. In that case, if you write something in English, I will answer in German. But you do know that I can read what you write in English. So if you want to say something there, I'm not that strict on that channel about the language. If you want to say something, you want to ask something on a stream there, you can write it in English. I'll answer in German, and we can cope with that. I'm quite sure. And so thank you for joining me tonight. It's more than an hour again, so that's my usual time here on the live stream. I'm really happy that you've been here. I hope I could tell you a little bit more about the G7. As I said about the whole Brexit thing, tomorrow morning at 6, there will be a longer video about all the Brexit shenanigans at the G7. That's why I didn't go too deep into it in this live stream now. It will be published at 6 a.m., but you don't have to watch it then. It will be there after that as well. And so, thank you. Conservator, I keep my fingers crossed for you team later tonight. I will definitely watch that game. And see you all in my next video tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. or next week on my live stream or on my Queervious channel. I would really love to see some of you there. But for today, thank you very much.